Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Muhammad Nasim Firdaus Shajib, and you can see the title, that is Asking Questions, Grammatical Angle. I found it interesting, and I believe all of you find it interesting in the sense that asking questions is one of the grammatical items who is in the darkest part when we try to learn a language. Uh, it seems a little bit, I mean, in the right way to say, from the part of Bangladeshi speakers or Bangladeshi language users or the South Asian language users. The point is, whenever we make questions in Bangla, we can just use the verb words, and we can have a rise intonation, and only by that we can make a question whenever we speak. And during written language, we can express our questions so by producing the verb word itself, and at the end putting a note of interrogation. So by doing so, we can make questions. But whenever we are talking about asking questions in English language, there are some particular point of view. There are some rules and structures in order to make a question in English. And in the slide narration, I will disclose that point of view. That means from grammatical point of view. So I will show you the corners of making a question. I will try to show you how to ask a question from a grammatical point of view. And here are my sources. I have used New Headway 3rd edition intermediate students book and Oxford Practice Grammar. So these two books are used as my sources and references, and definitely that is me. So let's look at our contents. Okay, here are our contents, though it seems a little bit hazy, a little bit, broad, but I can assure you it's not as broad as it seems from the contents. Yes, we will start with the objectives. What will we be learning? I mean, and after completing this slide narration, what can we produce? And we will be continuing with the introduction, and we will show you the base point of view of asking questions. And one interesting point is here, classroom questions, as definitely we will know in detail in that section. Categorical identity, we will try to show you the different patterns of questions, and the questions in context. If you want to ask a question, definitely there should be in context, and what could be there, this will be disclosed in that section. And of course, the grammatical point of view, we will try to look at some grammatical points there. Applying questions in context, we will try to use questions in different contexts. And of course, this particular video will end with the practice, which I referred as conclusion. Okay, let's start with the objectives. What are we going to learn? Yes, after this slide, if you concentrate properly, then I believe you will be developing the following issues. I should tell you that basic structure of question sentence. Yes, you will know the basic structures of question sentence, and then forming different forms of questions. You know, there are different forms of questions. We use different types of questions, so you will be able to structure different forms of questions, and of course you will be able to apply a question sentence, or you can produce question sentence in context rather than producing individual sentences. I mean, and besides developing individual sentences, definitely you will be able to do that, and besides this you will be able to make a question in a context where we need to make or produce a question. So let's go to the introduction. Okay, the first sentence says, in English questions, the subject and verb are inverted, whereas in many languages, they can be formed simply by a rising intonation. So whenever we are saying that subject and verb, you know that subject and verb are two major issues in a sentence, whether it is a question or in affirmative sentence or assertive sentences. So in English questions, you can say subject and verb are inverted. Maybe verb comes first and then subject goes after the verb. So that's happen. But in English language, as in English language that happens, but for the other languages, I mean, if we talk about Bangla or other Indo-European languages, especially Indo languages, you can tell that those questions can be formed by just raising raising intonation. For example, করেছো, বা এটা করেছো. So you can say there is no question words, there is um, no pattern, no particular pattern for that, but still we can make a question by a rising intonation. Definitely there is a rising intonation in English question sentences, but there is a grammatical point of view. That means there are some structures, there are some rules in there to make a question. So uh, uh, so the questions, how come these questions uh, got our attention? What's the role of questions? uh, you know, from the part of this course, I have designed this particular class. You know, you need to ask questions in a classroom. From the classroom point of view, you need this one. So that's why whenever you want to lead in, yes, whenever you want to carry on a lesson, you need to have a question answer session. And because question answers, that actually activates the pattern of interaction. Pattern of interaction, by saying pattern of interaction means we are focusing through what should I tell, focusing through a conversation. So if you want to carry on a conversation, if you want to carry on the interaction, you need to activate the question answer form in that conversation. So definitely whenever you are trying to develop your speaking skill, you need to do that. Fluency activities depends on the use of open-ended referential questions. So we are talking about referential questions. Whenever we are producing reference, what do you think? Like these types of questions, that is, which are open-ended. So those questions actually are dependent on fluency activities. And for paraphrasing and clarification, so you want to paraphrase or you want some clarification from the teacher, you need to ask the right question with the right pattern. So those are the roles of questions in classroom, but I would like to go in detail. So here I am. So whenever you are in a classroom, as a university students, not only in English language classroom but also in different classrooms, so you need to ask questions. So the questions are primarily two types. One is display questions and another is referential questions. Through display questions, we elicit learners' prior knowledge and check comprehension. For example, the teacher may ask, what does that mean? What does referential question mean? And when do we use referential questions? So these types of questions are display questions. Okay, so the teacher needs to elicit information from prior knowledge, and that could be a clarification question as well from the part of the students. When the students may ask the teacher, what does you mean by the teacher? Then those questions are referred as display questions. So those questions are important in your classroom. And whenever we are referring as referential questions, and so by saying or by referring referential questions, we mean that those questions are meant to provide information, give an opinion, or explain or clarify. So what do you think about that, like these questions? What do you think about classroom questions? What do you think about this particular slide? So you know that these questions are a little bit different than asking a specific question. For example, you can ask me, sir, what did you do? From what did you pass your bachelor? So that is a close-ended question. I should tell you that, and you know there is only one answer for that. But whenever you will ask this question, what do you think about that particular college? So that is open-ended. That means I can elaborate, I can adjust, I can produce lots of information in there. So those questions are referred as referential questions, and those referential questions can be categorized as open-ended and closed, or we can say closed-ended questions, divergent or open-ended, and convergent or closed-ended questions. Whenever we are referring divergent or open-ended questions, so that means the answer can be supplemented with different kinds of information. And whenever we're referring as convergent or closed question, that means you have only few options and you need to choose between them. So maybe the MCQ questions are like that. Multiple choice questions are we can say that closed questions. But definitely it is also dependent whether it is referential closed or not, because sometimes it can be referred as display questions as well. So you need to understand that. So these types of questions are I mean can be found in your classrooms. So you need to have this in your mind. You need to understand these types of questions. Okay, so from the grammatical point of view, if we want to categorize as the question sentences, then from the structure point of view, we have these three different types of questions, that is yes no question, choice question, and WH question. In one sense, I can tell you that yes no questions and choice questions are pretty much similar whenever we are saying that from the grammatical point of view. So in that sense, you will have one and two, yes no questions and WH questions. But whenever I say that is a little difference, between that yes no questions and choice question. That means you need to have a choice whenever these questions were asked, though the patterns are almost similar to this one except the last section of that question. So and interesting thing is that whenever somebody is asking yes no questions, definitely you should answer with a yes or with a no. That would be the first one. Definitely you can supplement information after that, but you should say either yes or no. Okay, so that's the thing of yes no questions. But for the choice question, there will be a choice and you need to maybe there are 4 choices, as you need to choose only one, or maybe there are 2 choices, you need to choose only one. One means either this one or this one or 2. So that's just what is choice question. WS question is a little bit of different in compared to these 2. WS questions always mostly start with WH, like who, like what. You can see that those questions start with W and which, except this one, how. So but still that is WS questions. And whenever we try to identify these questions, interesting thing is that you cannot say yes or no. You cannot. Yes, you cannot say yes or no whenever these types of questions are asked to you. So for example, I'm saying who are you, you cannot say yes or no. Okay, if we say yes, that will doesn't mean anything. That will not mean anything actually. And you cannot say no. You need to have some explanatory answer. You need to produce some different from some answer which is not in the question, which is not mentioned in here. So that is the point from the structural category. So let's see from the structure point. Okay, here are the first one, that is yes no questions. Yes, in yes no questions you can use the auxiliary verb. You should put that in your mind. And definitely whenever we are making questions, whether it is assertive or interrogative, we cannot exclude the verb. Okay, so verb and subject are the 2 major things in a question, and so you cannot do that. So the verbs will be there always. The verbs will be there, and whenever there will be verbs, then there will be tenses as well. So tense, verb, these grammatical points are very common, and whenever you are producing sentences in English language. So do, auxiliary verb; can, auxiliary verb; has, auxiliary verb; did, auxiliary verb. So these are the auxiliary verbs. Though I know that they are from different categories. For example, do for the do verbs, and the can are for the modals, and has the to have verbs. So, and did is the past form. And definitely you will find be verb as well, like is and was. So be verb, do verbs, and to have verbs. So those are different auxiliary verbs are there. But the point is, whenever you want to produce a yes no questions, yes no questions means the answers should be starting with a yes or no. So those questions should be asked with the auxiliary verb. Then you can produce the subject, and then of course you can add the main verb. But there are some exceptions. Whenever there are verb be, then the main verbs can be excluded, like is any French. That means the speaker wants to know whether she is from France or not, whether she comes from France or not. So that's why those questions are without a main verb. So you need to understand this. So do you want dinner? Do you want dinner? Yes, I do. Can you drive? No, I can't. Has she finished her work? Yes, she has. Did they go home? No, they did not. So is Annie French? Is Annie French? Yes, she is. Was Ram at home? No, he wasn't. So these questions we are referring as yes no questions. So, as I said earlier, that yes no questions and choice questions are pretty similar. So now let's turn back to choice questions. So you can see that the auxiliary verbs are there, the subjects are there, the basic verb or main verb is there, and then so here the structure gets a little bit different compared to the previous one. And we can have the information 1, and then we can have the information 2, and these are joined by or. So the auxiliary verb is there, do, then subject you can produce the other subjects as well, then the basic verb want, and the options tea or coffee, and then in answer you just don't need to say yes or no. You can say coffee or you can say tea, please. Okay, so that's why we are saying that a little bit of difference in there, but definitely if you see that the pattern is almost similar, even in the exceptions as well. Whenever we are producing is or where, and there is a verb be, then is you avoid, so there is no basic verb in here. So like this one, that I'm a student, I am a student, so there is no principal verb is there, the auxiliary verb am is working for principal verb. So those types of sentences we're talking about when we do not need the basic verb or main verb in here. So that could be is white or black, so you can say it's black, okay, rather than using yes or no. So let's look at the question, at the structure. You need the auxiliary verb, yes, that's for sure. You need the subject, and you need the basic verb. And for choice question, you can give options to the person whom you are talking to, information 1 or choice 1 or option 1, and then option 2 as well. And I mean, and the person whom you're talking to has the option to choose between that. So those questions are referred as choice question. And now I think you should have more concentration in this particular section whenever we are referring as and W is question. W is question. W is question is question what questions. So question what questions means there are some question words. So we are referring them as WH. WH for where, WH for when, WH for who, WH for how, WH for why, and WH for whom as well. So there are some few WH questions. So those can be, this should be remembered by you because they are not many. You can remember those. So what's the pattern? Yes, you should start with the question word, then the auxiliary verb, then the subject, and then the basic verb. And if you want to add some additional object, that means complement, you can do that. Like as when, the question word, will, the auxiliary verb, subject we, and basic verb have, and complement lunch. When will we have lunch? She will have it at 12 a.m. So look at it here when I have said earlier that they are inverted. Will, and have. So will have is there, and the subject is absent because as we have the subject we have in there. When will have lunch? She will have it at 12 a.m. So maybe you can say that we will have it at 12. When will we have lunch? She will have it 12. So that could be she's going to have 12. So what about you? So you can join her at 12 p.m. So that could be. So that is what I'm saying. Who did she meet? She met her boyfriend. So another thing is that, as I said, that you need to have a close connection between the tense and the verbs, as well whenever we are producing questions. So did and meet, you know this basic point. We cannot use two past forms in one single sentence. So whenever we have this one past form, so we have to produce the base form. So that is base form. Do not say expose it like saying this is the present form, but it is the base form. So what is the base form of a verb? Like we can go with the particular one. Go is the base form. Yes, go is the base form, because it is not only the present form. We can say goes also as present form. So that is why go is the base form. But go can also be used whenever we use the first or second person in there. So that is why go is the base form. Goes is also the present form. Go can be the present form as well. So goes and go both are present form, but we can say go is the base form. And then of course went is the past form, and then will be the future form. Will go is the future form. So we are talking about this base form. So please do remember that. And where is Bombay? So you know that the verb exception. So as I have shown it in the earlier slides, so you know that whenever we are referring as the object, we might not need to produce the basic verb there. You can say where is Bombay? Bombay is there. It's in India. Bombay is in India. You can say that. How old was she? She was 30. So we have this subject, so we need the object. So what is that object? And that object is 30. So how many people were there? How many people are there? So we have the subject, we need the object, so we add this one, 1000. So complement is there and auxiliary is there. So you can have this one all through the day, and you can find these sentences, these quotient patterns all over the text used. Okay, now we now want to move to the next section. Let's see. And the next section is, now we'll try to look in the context. The thing is that from my experience, from my teaching career, I have seen that, and whenever the learners are learning grammar, mostly they follow individual sentences as to learn the pattern, and as I showed you earlier, but they do not go with the context, because the context a little bit of complex than individual questions. But do not forget that in real world you will get questions in real time and with context. So that is why we need to understand the context where those questions are used. So that's why I found it very appropriate whenever I refer this one, that is it is a wonderful world, and you know that this is section 1 new hit with 3rd edition intermediate students book, and you will find this chapter, that is unit 1 page 6 to 13, and the name of the chapter is It's a Wonderful World. So please visit that chapter, you will find this one, and we'll be starting with this as a grammatical pattern whenever we are having questions. This is very important. I should tell you, this is very important. Yes, it is very important in the sense that whenever you would like to know someone for the first time, you need some information in order to verify, in order to know in detail, in order to have a friendship as well. You need those information, and the only way to have this information is ask a question. So you need to ask question. For example, you need this information, you need where the person is living, to whom you are talking to, and you need what is her birthplace, and when, whether you can have this one, though you know that that is very inappropriate to ask the age, but you can ask when was he born. Then the place, definitely that is a part of headway, which is written by a foreign writer, foreign author. So definitely you can use cities. I have got two brothers and a sister, so that means as it is very related to the family. I'm studying English because I need it for my job. The reason for studying English. So that is a question started with why. I have been studying English for 3 years. How long? So whenever you're saying how long, I have been to the United States, Canada, Japan, and Australia. Maybe which countries? So and I went to Canada 3 years ago. Okay. So when? So where? How many? Why? How long? Which? And when? So one thing for sure, if you have come from the very first slide to here, then that means you know that all of these questions, and of course don't forget about where. Yes. Okay, don't forget about where. The thing is that all of these questions started with a WH where, when, how. Of course I said that this is an exception, why, and which. So all of this started with a WH. So all these are WH questions, and you cannot say yes or no to answer that. So that is a WH questions, and you need to elaborate, you need to produce sentence, you need to explain. So that's the interesting part. So let's see what could be the questions and of these answers. First one is, where were you born? Okay, as I said earlier, that there is a very close connection between tenses and verbs whenever you are asking question. And of course the voices are there. Born is a passive one, so you cannot use born as active one. Where were you born? I was born in London in 1984. I was born. So born here is used as participle rather than the past form. You should know that. And when were you born? You should tell that I was born in 1984. So that could be two questions. First one is, where were you born? I was born in London. And the next question is, when were you born? I was born in 1984. And then, I live in Milan. Where do you live? I live in Milan. And then, I have got two brothers and sisters. How many brothers and sisters have you got? I have two brothers and sisters. And then, I'm studying English because I need it for my job. Why are you studying English? So I don't know what is your answer, but definitely you can make your answer. And then I have been studying English for 3 years. That means how long? I should start a question with how long. How long have you been studying English? And then, I have been to the United States, Canada, Japan, Australia. Which countries have you been to? Which countries have you been to? So have you been is there, and of course you have found have been there. And whenever I have been there is inverted to have you been. So these are the connections you need to notice. And the which countries, and the answer is there, Canada, Japan, and Australia. Which countries have you been to? And then, I went to Canada 3 years ago. So the question is, when did you go to Canada? So as you know, that did and go, as I use did here. So I use the present I use the base form of this verb go. When did you go to Canada? So I have shown this as questions in context because this is one of the context. The context is that you are new in your classroom, and you need to introduce yourself. You need to know each other, and that the students, and that means you need to know your classmates. So in that sense, I mean, in this situation, you need to ask this question. So definitely, you will be. I mean, your classmate will ask the similar questions to you. So, in a physical classroom, I would suggest you to ask each other, which wherever you're sitting to, but definitely you can do that. You can call one of your classmates and you can have this information, and you can inform us. Yes, you can inform us as in forum. So definitely you can do that. So here is another context, the questions in another context, but you know that the previous context was in W's, but here this context is in yes no questions. I'll show you the context. The thing is that these questions are are can these questions can be used as examples or practice as well, so you can have your practice in there. So a conversation between Emma and her dad is this one. This is the conversation starting with the good morning. So starting with the time frame is one of the points to note for conversation. So definitely you should keep it in your mind. Good morning, did you have a nice time last night? Yes, I did. So did you have is, and the answer is that yes, I did. So here the have did not work as auxiliary verb, rather as a base verb, the principal verb there. So did is worked as the auxiliary verb. So yes, I did. I went round to Bill's house. Do you want breakfast? So it's still there is a yes no question. So talking about the present moment. So starting with the no, I don't. No, I don't. Thanks. I'm not hungry. Have you had any coffee? So if you're not hungry, then do you need coffee? So you can say that do you want a coffee or tea? So that could be the question as well, with additional sentences. But here the Ted asked whether she wants the coffee. Yes, I have. Have you had any coffee? Yes, I have. That means Emma had coffee. That means in the present moment we are talking about. I don't want any more. Thanks. Have you had any coffee? So here is the principal verb have. So you have to produce this one. Yes, I have. So definitely you should produce this one with the connection of this primary auxiliary verb. Is Bill coming around tonight? So as you have gone to Bill's also, is he coming around tonight? No, he isn't. No, he isn't. So that is tonight, today, is a near future. So you can definitely you can use the present form. He is going out for dinner with his family. Okay. Are you leaving for school soon? Yes, I am. Are you? Yes, I am. Are you? Yes, I am. I'm going right now. Bye. I'm going out now. So maybe Emma woke up earlier, and she had completed her breakfast. She had taken her breakfast and the coffee as well, and now she is all prepared for the school. That time the conversation started between Emma and her dad. So this is a very one of the common situations. Maybe whenever you are leaving for the university, maybe you had the same conversations, so with your dad. So definitely these contextual questions will be helpful for you. So you will know what to say, how to make questions. You know that there is still in there. There is the present from past from is there. Sometimes there is near future is there. So you know how to make that. Okay, so here is another context for you. So in classroom you can have class survey, or maybe if you want to do a business you can have this survey as well. And whenever I said about the close-ended questions, that means you do not have much options to say it elaborately. so that is only yes no questions is there. Have you got a computer at home? So I could say, have you got a computer or a laptop at your home? So you can say that computer or laptop in there. But as this is, the first one yes no question, so you can just say yes or no, and you can collect the responses, record the responses of from your classmates, and you can have a conclusion in there. But whenever you will be asking questions, definitely your skill for asking questions will be developed. So have you got a computer at home? Are you going out tonight? Do you play a musical instrument? Did you watch TV last night? Last night indeed. Have you seen any good films lately? So this is a perfect form, so that's why it is in the participle one. Have you seen? Are you going to have a coffee after the lesson? So definitely you can introduce more questions, 7, 8, even 9, or even 10. So that could be the questions you can ask for your class survey. So though they are in an individual form, but definitely that is in a context. The context is that you want to make a survey in your classroom from the classmates, so you can have it. So that is why these are the questions in context. Okay, so now from the grammatical point of view, so we need to look at the basic points. We need to look at the grammatical points, grammatical rules from the structure point of view. What are they? We will be starting with the yes no questions, and the point is that invert the subject and the auxiliary verb. So we'll say that they're inverting, that means first, second, and they swap their positions, and so from a statement to question. So that was why we are saying that invert the subject and the auxiliary verb. And if there is no auxiliary verb, then you should use do, does, or did. So that will solve your problem. And in yes no questions, only saying yes or no is rude. Yes, definitely yes or no is rude. So it is better to add short responses. Yes, if you add short responses, it will be fine. So just say, do not just say yes or no, just say use no, I don't. So the question must be, uh, have you had your breakfast? Do not just say yes. Just say yes, I have. No, I don't. I did not have my breakfast. So I had not my breakfast. So those will be a little bit of face saving. So don't be just rude. And yes no questions can be used as requesting and offering, inviting, and asking permission. So that is another role of yes no questions. So definitely you should ask yes no questions for the answer, for the information as well, but you can have it for the request as well. You can for it as the offering as well. So for example, do you want a coffee? So definitely this is information. You are asking information, but at the same time you are offering coffee. So invitation, would you like to come? So that is invite. Asking permission, may I come in? So requesting, can you give me that? Will you please give me that? So those are the yes no questions, but still they can be used as the basic sense in conversations in your real life. And in WS questions, as I said earlier, it is a descriptive questions, and you cannot say yes or no to answer. That means if you can say yes or no, but that definitely that will not give you the meaning. So you cannot say yes or no. You need to elaborate. You need to say something new. Usually there is no do, does, or did in subject question. So that is one important thing you need to remember whenever the question asked about the subject, who is there. So usually there is no do, does, or did. That means who is Muhammad Nasim Firdaus. So there is no do, does, did whenever we are like giving it as a subject question. And that means who did that, who did that. Nasim Firdaus did that. So in subject question there is no subject question. Subject questions versus object questions. Who rang you versus who did you rang? Who rang you? So you want to know the name of this person. Okay, you want to know this person who rang you. So the name, you want the name, so you want the subject. So that's why there is no do, does, or did. And the previous sentence I used, like who did that, that is the main verb rather than the auxiliary verb. So so that is a little bit of different, that is an exception. And who rang you, you want the subject. Rohim rang you, Korean rang you, so you want the subject, you want the name. They rang you, he rang you. And who did you ring? That means you are there, the subject is there, and you want and the object. And who did you ring? I rang to Mr. Nasim Firdaus. So here Nasim Firdaus is the object, so you need to understand that. So whenever we need the object, that means through questions we want the object, then we have to use do, does, did. And whenever we want the subject, we can use we should not use do, does, or did, and we can still have this answer. Okay, so here are some application of questions in context. So here is definitely there is a conversation in there, and it is very much needed in our conversation as well. Who, what, of which. These are the questions you need to use in here, and that is the conversation between Detective Wilson and Taylor, who are in the murder of Lord Weybridge at his country house. So start with the conversation. Wilson, which of the guests in the house is the murderer? Do you think, Taylor? Which do you think? So that is referential question. I don't know yet. So that means you cannot say yes or no. Which of the guests? Gap had the opportunity. Gap of the guests had the chance to do it. Gap happened after dinner last night. That's what we have to find out. There must be a motive for the murder. Gap motive could the murderer have? Love or money? They are the usual motives. Gap of them is it? I wonder. Gap, did Lord Weybridge leave the money too? That's the question, Wilson. So I would like to give you some tips as well from the application as well. If you want to, in this point of view, I would like to give it a pause and try to have this answer. Okay, give it a pause, and then you should come back. So 1, 2, 3, pause. Okay, I hope you have done that. You have gave a pause in there. So now the tips and points. Whenever you will see some gaps in there, so definitely those gaps is very much related with the answers or with the sentences which is in the next. So there are connections in there. So if you want to answer this one, definitely you need to read the fourth one. That means the next sentences and after next sentences in order to make it a correct form. Definitely there is a form, but in context you need to understand what is the next sentence. So here are the answers. I don't know yet who had the opportunity. Which of the guests had the chance to do it? What happened after dinner last night? That's what we have to find out. There must be a motive for the murder. What motive could the murderer have? Love or money? They are the usual motives. Which of them is it? So maybe you can traduce it in yes no questions, or I mean in choice questions, love or money. I wonder, who did Lord Weybridge leave his money to? That's the question, Wilson. So those are the gaps. So as I said, that who, what, which. So that could be those are the answers in here. But one thing I should tell you, which I am not a great fan, is that this particular exercises exercise has taken from the grammar book, Oxford Practice Grammar. But whenever you look at it, you will see that it is man-made. That means it is not natural. It is specially curtailed, specially made for you. That means for the learner. So that is why you have found lots of questions in such a small conversation, but that can be happening in real life. So that is the thing you need to understand. But still it can be used as an example, as you can understand what could be the question in which answer. So definitely you can do that. So for the practice, you know that there are lots of the practice for textbook 2 for individual question exercises, and you will find some questions in context as well. But for contextual exercises, definitely I will recommend you the textbook 1, that is textbook 1 and the header 1. You will find lots of conversations is there, conversations are there. So I will be suggesting and recommend you to follow headway as well, and for the grammatical rules and structures, definitely you can go for the textbook 2 as well. So you can do that. So I think that will not be a problem. And the questions, yes, in making questions, if you can ask proper questions, ask a question without any grammatical mistake, then I will be thinking that I'm successful in this pattern. But if you do not have any questions, then I would like to recommend you to start from the first slide again, and listen closely, listen with interest, and I believe there will be some questions, and put those questions in the forum. So thank you very much. Yes, another and the long narratives, yes, of the slides, but I believe this will help you to ask questions, and because without asking questions you cannot learn. You need to ask questions in order to learn, and you need to ask questions to fulfill your curiosity. Okay, so here I cut off, here I sign off. Thank you very much.